Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Quadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. Yeah, just wanted to do a lesson on this article I found from End Time Headlines. It says U.S. approves the nation's first lab-grown chicken, which this is something that they've been doing for a very long time. You know, making lab-grown meat. This isn't something new, but very soon it will hit the shelves and things like that. All right, so let's read it. It says, for the first time, U.S. regulators on Wednesday approved the sale of chicken made from animal cells. Now, again, this is something that they've been doing, but now it's being approved to go onto the shelves for the people to get it. But who's to say, knowing how this man works, that you haven't been already eating, as I'll get that precept as well in Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 13. How you people know that you haven't been eating defiled food already, and things like that. There's been numerous things that have come out that certain food that people eat from, like McDonald's, the meat that people eat from McDonald's has human DNA in it. It's mixed with humans in it. So how do you not know that, how do we not know that this has already been happening, that we've already been eating, lab grown meat for a while now? They're just coming out with it now. All these things that are coming out now, they've been doing these things, and probably people have already been eating lab-grown meat. But what they're making their wickedness come out now, right? It's the same thing like the minor attracted people and things like that. If you know what I'm talking about, let's say about a 50-year-old man can like a 9-year-old, if you get what I'm saying, right? Also the man on man, the woman on woman. This is things that they've been, doing in the dark, but what they're making their wickedness known now out there in the world. Right, they also have these transformers, I can't say that word. I was about to say something, but these transformers come out to basically a man in a dress. I'll just say that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. YouTube, chill out. A man in a dress wants to come, a 6'5", 250-pound man in a dress wants to come around your daughter, up in lipstick and makeup and things like that, coming around, and your daughter's supposed to accept that, or your son's supposed to accept that, right? Right. So this is what they're doing. This is things that they've been want to do, or people have been like that. They're just making it more open to the public about with the wickedness. So it says, I'll read that again. It says, for the first time, U.S. regulators on Wednesday approved the sale of chicken made from animal cells, allowing 2 California companies to offer lab-grown meat to the nation's restaurant tables and eventually supermarket shelves. Right, and if I'm not mistaken, I looked up into that whole with the lab-grown meat. If I'm not mistaken, from what I understood from the video, is that they take the cells from what you call it, from, let's just say, chicken, beef, whatever meat. They just take the cells. Now, mind you, it don't have to be good cells either, but they take cells from the animal and then they mix it in to something, and that's how they get the. Eventually, I think they mix it with something that's how they get the texture for the meat, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not just because they may say lab-grown meat, you may think, oh, they probably take some part of the animal. No, they're just taking the cells, and that's how they're getting the meat somehow. They mix it with some texture, if I'm not mistaken. It says, according to the NYP, the Agriculture Department gave the green light to Upside Foods and Good Meat, firms that had been racing to be the first in the U.S. to sell meat that doesn't come from slaughtered animals. So again, proving that this has been something that's been going on for a while. It's just, oh, we want to be the first to bring this out. So basically, they've been perfecting it this entire time. What's now being referred to as cell cultivated or cultured meat, as it emerges from the laboratory and arrives on dinner plates, which actually now, Salakia to be this, fanboy, but this actually reminds me of Dragon Ball Z now, right? Because that's what Cell is. If you know Cell from Dragon Ball Z, he was the green dude, the cockroach looking dude. Pretty much Cell from Dragon Ball Z was the cells of all the Z fighters. He was made from cells from Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, I think Gohan, Frieza, King Cole, and I think somebody else, right? And basically what Dr. Gero is the old dude. Dr. Gero, again, if you know about Dragon Ball Z, Dr. Gero was Android 20. And basically, what Dr. Giro did was take the cells from all those people and mix it into something, gave it what you call it, basically gave it a bioorganic body, basically cell, because the cells just can't grow on themselves. I mean, they can, but they need to mix it with something to in order to give it a body. So what Dr. Giro did in that cartoon or whatever, in that show, no, not cartoon, anime, uh basically took the cells and then gave it a biological body to be able to, for the cells to grow and able to, for it to form into the cockroach body that cell had. And then obviously when he absorbed the androids, that's how his body, mutated or whatever. But that's the same thing that they're doing here, taking the cells from animals, right? Because I keep hearing cell. I'm like, it just kept ringing a bell. Taking the cells from animals and then basically having some substance so that way the cells can grow within it, and there's your lab grown meat. Yeah, cells cultivated are cultured meat as it emerges from the laboratory and arrives on dinner plates. The move launches a new era of meat production aimed at eliminating harm to animals and drastically reducing environmental impacts of grazing, growing feed for animals, and animal waste, which, as the WEF, the World Economic Forum, always says that, we got to cut down on the meat that people are eating because this is causing gas emissions, if I'm not mistaken, and, this is causing I'm forgetting the terminology they use, but there's, the gas emissions that they say is an issue. Animals are farting too much. This is causing harm to the earth, so we need to cut down on the meat. So if people are not going to stop eating so much meat, well, we have to make lab grown meat in order to, substitute for the meat that people want to eat. Now you have to think about it. The Most High made meat, right, with its certain properties and things like that for us to consume. Yes, for you vegetarians out there, meat is lawful. God made meat, made chickens for us to eat, or certain meats that are lawful for us, right? Chicken being one of them. So the Heavenly Father made chicken in a way that is, for human consumption, right? And it has certain properties and things like that that benefit when we eat it. That is a benefit to our body. That gives our body energy, protein, whatever what so forth, right? You have to think about it now. This man wants to do his own thing. So who's to say, who the hell do you know what they're putting in this? Because they could sit there and say, we're just using the cells from animals and that's it. But how the hell do we know that? We don't know what the hell you're putting in this lab grown meat. Remember, it's lab grown meat. It's made in the laboratory by you scientists. We don't know what the hell you're putting in there. Yeah, the foundation could be, animal cells, but what other things are you putting in the so-called cultured meat, right? Because you have to think about it. This is the same man. These are the same people that think putting fluoride in water is a good thing. These are the same people that put chemtrails in the air. And oh, don't worry, it's good for the people, right? Among other things that they put in food, if I'm not mistaken, in vegetables, pesticide, if I'm not mistaken, right? Salaki, if I'm incorrect about that. So these guys are always putting some BS in the food and not making it. Not. Why do you think we have GMO GMO foods, GMO tomatoes, and things like that? Because they're always trying to add something else that really is not a benefit to you. That's not a benefit to your body. This is why when you eat foods, this is why you feel weak, because the foods that you're eating is genetically modified and it doesn't give you the energy and the nutrients that you need to carry out throughout the day. These are the same people, again, that think putting fluoride in water is a good thing and it'll help you out when it doesn't. Among who else knows the other things that they put within the water? Because who's to say it's just fluoride? So continuing on, it says, instead of all that land and all of that water, matter of fact, let me go back real quick. It says the move launches a new era of meat production aimed at eliminating harm to animals and drastically reducing environmental impacts of grazing, growing feed for animals, and animal waste. Well, if you would adhere to the scriptures where it's, talking about giving the land a Sabbath and giving the land a rest, things would be able to, prosper and things would be able to grow. But seeing as how these people are adverse to the scriptures, this is why everything is in a decline, because they're adverse to scriptures. Scriptures speak about life. The scriptures speak about things, a cycle of life and things, rotating, having that hamster wheel keep going. Esau Edom doesn't allow that hamster wheel to keep going according to the way the Most High wants things to go, because he's adverse to the scriptures. He doesn't listen to the scriptures, as is written of in Psalm the 50th chapter. He casted his word behind thee. This is why things can't go, and this is why they're coming up with lab-grown meat, GMO type stuff. Slack for the background noise, right? Because they don't follow the ways that the Heavenly Father wants things to run. You can have a very functioning society and have the meat available to the people if you would just stop interfering and just do what the Lord said. But we know that you're not going to do it. Continuing on, it says, instead of all that land and all of that water that's used to feed all of these animals that are slaughtered, we can do it in a different way, said Josh Tetrick, co-founder and chief executive of Eat Just, which operates Good Meat. The companies received approval for federal inspections required to sell meat and poultry in the U.S. The action came months after the Food and Drug Administration deemed that products from both companies are safe to eat. It says a manufacturing company called Joyn Biologics, which works with Good Meat, was also cleared to make the products. It says cultivated meat is grown in steel tanks using cells that come from a living animal, a fertilized egg, or a special bank of stored cells. In Upside's case, it comes out in large sheets that are then formed into shapes like chicken cutlets and sausages. It says Good Meat, which already sells cultivated meat in Singapore, the first country to allow it, turns masses of chicken cells into cutlets, nuggets, shredded meat, and satays. I'm not too sure what that is. I never heard of that. Satays? It says, but don't look for this novel meat in grocery stores anytime soon. Cultivated chicken is much more expensive than meat from whole farmed birds and cannot yet be produced on the scale of traditional meat, said Ricardo San Martin, director of Alternate Meat Lab at University of California, Berkeley. So, slack for being long-winded about that, but just want to go through that article. But this is Ezekiel chapter 4 and verse 13. It says, And the Lord Yahweh said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat the defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I will drive them. You're not eating actual meat, as it's alternate meat, cultivated meat that is cultivated in the lab according to how they see things. Here it is, the scientist, the true scientist, which is Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, already made meat a way to benefit us. But here it is coming, this mad scientist, this Frankenstein scientist is going to create, like, they say Frankenfoods for you. And again, you don't know what they're putting in that cultivated meat. Again, we know that the Heavenly Father, through his Son, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, made meat a certain way that would benefit us, give us proteins, give us energy, right? But here it is, this guy is coming out with his meat, and now he's going to put his things in it that he deems it that would be good for us. But it's not going to be good for us. Look at the things. We already have an example of the things that they have already done. I gave examples of the fluoride in the water, the chemtrails, certain meat that you're eating at like McDonald's and things like that is not really meat. And think about it. It doesn't give you energy. This is why people feel sluggish throughout the day. Right? So the food that you're eating, the bread and all that, this is why sometimes the bread on the shelves, yeah, it could be there for days when it's in the plastic wrap or whatever. But the minute you take it out and open it or leave it somewhere, it gets moldy very quick. Why? Because you're eating defiled food and not actually eating anything. You might as well be eating air, in all honesty. All right, so I'll read that again. Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 13, it says, And the Lord Yahweh said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat the defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I will drive them. Right? And we're scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. So this is not just here in America. It's maybe prominent here in America, but it's all over the world. So just wanted to bring out this article that, hey, this is, also this ties in with, the boy Klaus Schwab, Yuval Noah Harari. They've talked about, well, specifically I remember Klaus Schwab speaking about it, about the whole, cutting down on the meat that people consume. You gotta start making lab grown meat. I believe, which that's dude's name, William Gates. All right, that's his actual name. Uh, so chill out, YouTube. You can't thing off my video because there's a lot of people called William Gates. But yeah, William Gates. You should know who I'm talking about. That's his actual name, but I guess they call him Dollar Bills for short. Just like Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey's name is actually James Carrey, but I guess people just call him Jim for short. So it's the same thing with William Gates. I guess they call him Dollar Bills for short. But yeah, buying up all that farmland and things like that. He's also, if I'm not mistaken, also talks about lab grown meat and things like that. So they're cultivating meat. They're cutting down on the meat consumption to be able to control the people. This is why all these factories are blowing up and things like that, to basically come out with this lab grown meat to give it to the people. No more natural meat, no more natural vegetables and things like that. No more natural anything. Even with the AI, you're no longer having natural people. Although it would seem that when you talk to these people, they don't seem natural. But unnatural people, unnatural meat, unnatural vegetables, synthetic, inorganic beings. That's what they're pushing for. They're not pushing for real things. They're pushing for inorganic, lifeless things, lifeless people, lifeless food. This is why scriptures say, unless the Lord has shortened the days, there shall no flesh be saved. Because this man is not about life. He's about, he's anti-life, right? But pray that this video is edifying and straight to the point. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kudash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. Shalom.